to By All Means Necessary, Real Recovery Talk. My name is Marco. I'm a grateful recovery addict. This is episode 23. We have a very special guest in the studio today, Jeremy Plummer. What's up, bro?
What's happening, my brother?
It's good to see you, man.
You as well.
I'm very great.
Episode 23?
Yeah, man.
Jordan episode.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually dialed it down like that for you. So
there you go.
So Jeremy actually has over 6 years sober. Jeremy is the founder of Recovery Through Repetition. We'll definitely get into that a little bit later. Shout out to Jared Flash Gordon. Jeremy is Jared's fitness coach.
I'm
trainer.
I'm like more, I would say, like an assistant strength conditioning coach.
Okay.
Obviously, you become familiar with Mr. Chris Dito, and
yeah, shout out Dito.
yeah, he's the guy.
Yeah. Shout out Quinn.
You know, we were in a unique situation where Dito was up north in New York, and you know, Jared had a fight coming up, and just for a lot of different reasons, we weren't able to get Chris down with us. So it all started where they kind of reached out to me and asked if I would just help facilitate. We would get Chris on the phone, kind of letting us know what it was that we were trying to achieve, and I would help Jared carry that out. And
okay,
now it kind of just formulated into a nice little team, and
yeah,
we had a good vibe going. We had a session earlier today, and
over at FTX.
We actually that's a whole nother thing.
Okay,
we're at a different location right now, but you know, obviously super grateful for all the time that we've had at FTX.
Okay. That sounds good. So shout out to Jared Gordon. We've known each other for like over 2 years, and we definitely go to meetings every Wednesday. We meet together at a men's group. There's been a lot of times where I reached out to you where I was struggling, either like through text or I called you, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate you coming on, you know, and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. So let's get into it, man. Like, where were you born? Where are you from?
So I'm 35 years old. I was born in Crown Point, Indiana, which is like very far northwest Indiana.
Okay.
Much closer to Chicago than like Indianapolis. So it's got its own area. They call it the region.
Okay.
And they actually pretty much consider us a suburb of Chicago because it's so close. We're like 40 minutes right on the Indiana-Illinois border. Yeah.
And what was like your childhood like?
You know, it's a funny question because I actually recently have dove into therapy for the first time since like very early on in my recovery.
Yeah, you mentioned that a month ago.
And with that, we're starting to unpack what I thought was, you know, if you were to ask me on like a lie detector test, you know, how my childhood was and all that kind of stuff, I would have said it was perfectly fine. No like significant trauma or anything like, you know, wildly notable that would, you know, like a lot of people that we know have some pretty rough stuff happen that you can kind of understand how it changed the trajectory of their life, right?
Definitely.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, or I was concerned, nothing like that ever happened to me. But, you know, it's kind of interesting looking at it with a therapist and kind of going down the family tree and looking at all the different instabilities and different things that that were just a part of my life that I just deemed normal.
Right.
And I don't know if that was because someone like me, that's what I do. You know what I mean? Like for the longest time, part of the reason why I used alcohol and drugs so much was to just try to numb everything out.
Right.
And I think I was even able to do that before I, you know.
Before you started. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but, you know.
Good for you, man.
You know, my parents were divorced and all that kind of stuff, but, you know, it was good, man. What I know for sure is that they did the best that they could. And, you know, what else can I really ask for, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You were an athlete, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, one of my friends from my hometown that I went to high school with is visiting me right now.
Oh, really?
They used to say he saw me in the trenches pretty bad. And it's actually like the first time he's been down here and seeing all of our stuff, you know, the gym
wow.
The nonprofit work and all that kind of stuff. So that's been cool.
That's amazing.
He was one of like his name's Matt. He's like one of the best athletes that I've known.
Really?
He ended up playing collegiately baseball and football and stuff. But yeah, we played basketball and football together in high school.
So you played basketball and football in high school, and then were you like doing any drinking or anything like that in high school? Is that when you started?
I actually picked up my first drink when I was 12.
When you were 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was that like in terms of like, do you remember that at all? Or do you remember?
I remember it. I don't think there was much of an intention. I was just one of them kids that like to do stuff that I shouldn't be doing.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we would trespass. We would just do, I used to steal like basketball cards and Pokemon cards from the local pharmacy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I was just like one of them kind of punk kids that just did what I wasn't supposed to do. And my buddy Colin and I snagged a warm bush light out of his parents' garage.
Okay. That's
drank that thing, and then and smoked cigarettes.
Okay. And did this happen? Like, did you do this all through high school? Were you drinking, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I started smoking weed at 12 or 13, and then I think freshman year. Yeah, probably freshman year, or maybe even before then. Right around 14, 15. Like I tried my first opiate. It was like a Darvocet, yeah.
At 14 or 15?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So was that your drug of choice, or like did that kick the addiction into opiates? Or?
I didn't even really have any awareness or the ability to acknowledge any of that. I mean, I really liked smoking weed.
Okay.
I smoked forever, and I used to even say like, I'm never ever going to quit smoking weed. I don't care what happens.
Yeah, like at one point you're just like, this is it, man.
It didn't really affect me adversely. I was able to, I played varsity sports and.
Oh, you were smoking weed and playing like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Of course. I mean, by my junior year, I mean, I was into everything. We were doing cocaine, Xanax, opiates of all different kinds, eating mushrooms, smoking weed, drinking, everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you graduated? So you graduated high school, and did you go to college to play sports? Or?
No, that's kind of where everything started to kind of spiral.
Okay.
I kind of like identified myself as an athlete, and I had also met a girl my senior year. Yeah, early in my senior year. So I stayed home, didn't end up going. I had some opportunities, nothing too crazy, that I could have played football in college.
Okay. You had offers or?
Yeah, nothing too crazy. There was like a place in Texas, a couple of places in Wisconsin, and, low level stuff, but it would have, I look at it now and it probably would have at least gave me that structure that I needed. Because as soon as sports were over for me in high school, all I was really good at was like partying and playing sports.
Okay.
Once sports were over, as far as in like that kind of setting, it was over for me.
Yeah, it was the same thing for me. When baseball was done, like a week later, that's when I got
no clue what I wanted to do as for a profession or a job.
Okay.
So then I'm just in my hometown. The girl ended up breaking up with me. She turned 21, experienced, the bar life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, then I'm just like in my hometown with no real purpose at all. And, started selling drugs and getting into all that kind of stuff.
Oh, really?
My use started to pick up pretty significantly.
Okay.
But I didn't get sober till I was 29. So there was, 15 years of
15 years
progressive drug use. Yeah.
And what was the end? What was your end like? Like what happened for you?
I mean, mostly I think, looking at it now, a lot of it was a result of just no purpose. Cause again, so I graduated high school. You're what, 17 or 18?
Mm-hmm.
I essentially floated around accomplishing nothing for upwards of 10 years.
Wow.
My dad would try to get me jobs, but I didn't like them. So I would do okay for a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm smart enough to pick things up and, intelligent enough to figure things out. And so I would sustain jobs for a little bit, but like, I'm one of them people where if I don't really like what I'm doing, it's going to show up one way or another. Mm-hmm. So I'd like, I'd not show up or, just not make it a priority or just be lazy.
Right.
And I mean, all the while I'm partying, you know what I mean?
24/7.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Wow.
Smoking weed all the time. At this point, I don't know if I really had I really don't even know when I realized that I was physically dependent on opiates.
You really don't know when you...
I mean, I remember the moment that I finally didn't have any one day.
Okay.
And what that felt like.
Right.
And me reaching out to my cousin and him letting me know, like, yeah, buddy, that's withdrawals. I remember that moment, but like I used consistently, I smoked weed throughout everything. That's kind of like irrelevant. And I was like, I smoked weed like I was breathing. Like it was just part of the deal.
Okay.
Times. I was never really a huge drinker. Obviously, we drank at parties and different things like that, and went out to bars, blah, blah, blah. But I pretty much kind of used opiates or Xanax. Xanax was really my first love.
Okay.
That almost took me out of the game completely early.
Really?
But yeah. But like from like 18 on, really since I graduated high school, I was popping pills, whether it was opiates or like benzos or whatever.
So when you were referring to, like you said, like your cousin was like, yo, that's for withdrawals. Mm-hmm. Did you check into like a detox? Did you go to rehab or?
No. I mean, I wasn't even really privy to any of that stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, man.
Yeah. I didn't know really much about any of that. And,
so how did you get into recovery? Like what did that look like?
I have an uncle so I've, again, I kind of mentioned it briefly in like, as far as my upbringing, fairly dysfunctional family on my mom's side.
Okay.
Really on both sides. And it's nobody's fault. I don't say that as like a negative thing. I think, everybody has their stuff.
No, everybody has stuff.
But there is a lot of addiction and alcoholism that runs throughout my family.
Okay.
And so I have an uncle he's an amazing guy. His name's Tyson. He's the one that saved my life. He's the last person to see me high. He was like a couple years sober at this point. And I mean, it got to the point where I was like overdosing and ending up in the hospital for long stints and like ICU. At one time I was in the ICU for like 11 days on a ventilator or intubated or whatever. So once that stuff started happening, they finally, I don't even know if they knew that he was sober, but long story short, maybe he reached out or they reached out.
Okay.
He kind of entered into our lives and started to help direct that whole stuff because he was working for a treatment center, was aware of what that process looks like, and kind of started to help facilitate that stuff. So he kind of took you under his wing, you would say? Mm-hmm. And when he introduced you to the rooms and recovery? Or? He wasn't sure how to do it. Him and I have a great relationship now. I just saw him back in December. He's somebody who I seek counsel for everything. I mean, he still works in the treatment space, which I do as well. Yeah. So, and he's like very, very highly respected. Okay. In the treatment space. So I seek a lot of counsel from him on that. And, but when I first, he's aware of what this looks like. I was a real deal dope fiend, like shooting coke and dope at the same time and like all that kind of stuff. You were shooting coke and dope at the same time. Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't even know that, bro. Yeah. So I got very bad. Wow. And his experience with that is people like me who are like full blown real deal junkies that are just being introduced to treatment usually don't get it the first time. Okay. So, he elected to kind of let me figure out what I needed to figure out for the most part and didn't try to interject too much and try to steer the ship. Yeah. Mostly, I think, try to protect himself, but also to not like rob me of any experiences that I needed to have. Sure. You know what I mean? So can you get into, can you kind of break down like what did you figure out? Like, did spirituality enter this? Like, what did that look like? I'm not a white ship wonder, or, one ship wonder. I struggled for a while. Like how long? Before he even got involved, I did go to treatment. I don't even remember when it was. Probably like when I was like 25 or 26, maybe in Illinois, like kind of closer to my hometown. But I AMA'd like right away. Really? Yeah. As soon as so I had just overdosed. I was in the hospital for like 10 days. They wouldn't let me come home. They said the only way you're going anywhere is if you go straight to a treatment center. So I literally went from the hospital to a treatment center, and I still couldn't breathe very much because I had like some type of respiratory failure. Okay, so it was pretty wild. My lungs were all banged up. So I was in this treatment center for like a week, basically just like recuperating. Yeah. And as soon as I was able to walk a little bit without getting out of breath, I just packed my shit and slid out. Yeah. So like walked a mile in the snow, and then one of my old friends picked me up. So like AMA is against medical advice. Okay. Because I know what you're going to do. I literally walked that mile in the snow with my luggage, got picked up, and the first thing I did was get high. Really? Yeah. And that was already, you already had that reservation. Like, I already knew. Right. At that point, I hadn't conceded to the idea that I was a drug addict. I thought I just had a bad run, and maybe if I didn't do this or if I didn't do that, I'd be able to shake out of it. And you know what I mean? But I had no idea what I was up against. You know what I mean? Yeah. So kind of break down, like, what was this defining moment for you? Like after multiple relapses, like, all these different scenarios, people trying to change people, places, things, trying to do this, pick up this, drop that. Like, what do you feel like, okay, this was
this is when I got it, or did something happen to you? Like, did
Well,
you?
I mean, it's interesting. It's like, it's a culmination of things. I finally went, things got really bad after that. I left that treatment center, started getting high again, and then I overdosed again. And, there's just so much, it's like such a long story.
Yeah.
I was out in Seattle at one point, and that's when I first started to become an IV user.
Okay.
Almost died out there. My dad had to fly out there and kind of rescue me again. And so from Seattle, I came home, and I was getting ready to go to another treatment center, the one that my uncle actually worked for.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Stillwater's. It's an amazing all men's 12-step immersion. So we'll get to that.
Okay.
But like, I'm almost dying in Seattle. We fly home, and I have a 3-day window between,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
me being at home and then me going to treatment. And of course, I can't not get high. I stole my mom's car, went and got high, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I finally get to Stillwater's 12-step immersion. They call it a retreat. It's more like a freaking boot camp.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, not in the sense of like they're drill sergeants, but they're not playing no games.
It's a real
private
deal.
pay. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So like there's no insurance involved or any type of curriculum they got to follow in order to get paid or nothing like that. They're good. They're just like a bunch of dudes that got sober in AA or whatever fellowship. And
Right.
they're about to tell you like how they see it for real.
Wow.
So
And how long were you there for?
45 days.
Okay.
Yeah. They tried to extend me longer, but I still wasn't ready.
Really?
So the reason I bring that place up is because they really taught me a lot about AA, fellowship, community, spirituality, being of service, a lot of the fundamental things that I live, that I've implemented into my life today that helped save my life. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at that time, I couldn't really hear what they were saying. I still hadn't, I didn't agree with the idea that I couldn't like drink or smoke weed ever again, because I didn't really have like a negative attachment to that. Like obviously, okay, maybe I shouldn't like shoot heroin and cocaine at the same time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's understandable.
Yeah, but this is okay.
Yeah. Like everybody drinks.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody smokes. And I've never really got in trouble doing either of those
Yeah, you
things.
didn't
So like in
overdose
the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I won't do dope, won't do anything hard anymore. I'll just drink and smoke. So, I said what I needed to say there and kind of flew under the radar enough for me to get up out of there. And then, I had to agree to go to a sober living because neither of my parents would let me come back to Indiana.
Okay.
So I was in a sober living in Nashville and, stayed there long enough to figure out the ropes and blah, blah, blah. And, a few months after I didn't work any steps. I think I worked up to step 4 with my sponsor and then, stopped calling them and stopped going to meetings. And then shortly after that, started drinking and smoking. Shortly after that, did some Xanax and then bang, it was like,
oh, you're off to the races.
Off to the races. And I ran in Nashville for about 8 months. And it got to the point where I was renting out this room in the basement of this old woman's house who had no idea what she had gotten herself into with me.
Yeah.
I hadn't paid rent there in 2 months. She was getting ready to kick me out. I stopped showing up for work. This was like a Wednesday. I stopped showing up for work. I didn't go Monday or Tuesday, and now it's Wednesday. My phone died, no money, and I'm sick as you could ever imagine.
Wow.
Laying in this dark basement of this random person's house that I somehow finagled my way into. You know what I mean? She's about to kick me out, and I only had 2 thoughts. I'm laying there just sick as a dog. My only thoughts are I'm going to kill myself, or I'm literally going to go outside and rob somebody so I can keep getting high.
Right.
As I'm entertaining those 2 thoughts, there's a knock on the door. I can hear it upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, man, the cops are here. I'm like, how did they know that I was going to rob somebody? And I was in like a psychosis. I had been shooting coke for a hot minute. So I'm like out of my mind.
Yeah.
And
who was it?
I didn't answer it. And about an hour goes by, knock at the door again. I'm like, you know what, man? Like, I got nothing to lose. I'm going to go answer it. Open the door and it's my uncle.
Wow.
Yeah. I still get emotional talking about it. It's so crazy.
No, man, but that's it.
And he's sitting there and he looks at me just like, you done? And dude, I just, yeah. You know what I mean? I said yes. And he's like, all right. He's like, go pack your stuff. He's like, we're going to get up out of here. I'm like, all right. I'm like, what should I pack? He's like, everything. You're never coming back here again. So I packed all my stuff. I'm getting ready to go into his car, and he's like, you know what, man? He's like, you smell terrible. Why don't you go take a shower real quick? You know, because I'm like, when I'm out there like that for real,
yeah,
like I'm not the person that you see today. You know what I mean? Like
no.
I wasn't showering. I wasn't eating food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just like such a low level,
like a degenerate. Yeah,
just degenerate human, man, that doesn't care about anything besides getting high.
Bro, look, can we just backtrack really quick? Like, what was it like when you opened the door and you saw him, man?
Relief. Mm-hmm.
That's some shit, dude.
Yeah, it was the craziest thing ever, bro.
That's God, man.
Oh, 100%. There's no way.
That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I've known you for 2 years, and I got goosebumps, bro. No, that's for real. Like that's so okay. So you took a shower and then what?
Got in his car. We went to this hot chicken spot because obviously Nashville's known for that. I thought that I was hungry, but I had like 2 bites and I couldn't even really eat food. You know what I mean? 'Cause I hadn't eaten in so long.
Right.
And then he took me to detox. I was there for like 12 days because I was in pretty rough shape.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time we were thinking the plan was that I was just going to go back to that same sober living that I was at initially.
Right.
And the day before I'm going to leave, they called me into my case manager's office and they said, you know what, we're actually going to try something different. We think you've kind of, things have ran their course for you in Nashville. We think it's probably best that you get up out of here. And they said, how does Florida sound?
Wow.
And he had got me scholarship to a sober living down here, and then for a couple months of IOP treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And
now,
I landed in Florida September 27th, 2016. So
when you got down to Florida, you were in an IOP, you were sober living, and what was your meetings like? What was that like?
Dude, it was just another God thing where I get to the sober living and there's 4 other young dudes that already had like 6 months sober.
Right.
Or actually, they had probably closer to 8 months sober, who had sponsors, who were working steps, who were in the gym, having fun, going to the beach. And they just had that that gleam in their eye and that pep in their step that pointed to the fact they were happy.
Right.
And I got to know them enough to know that they were just as bad as I was as far as, the depths that they had gone.
Right.
So I think there was just a little bit of hope there.
Mm-hmm.
And I just latched onto them for the life of me. So, we were meeting every day. We were meeting every day, people, sometimes twice a day. And then I started to kind of carve out my own path a little bit. There was this meeting called Just Before Dawn. It was a 6:30 a.m. meeting that I went to every single day that I lived in sober living.
Okay.
Like Monday through Saturday.
All right. And
then Sunday we went to the beach meeting.
Right.
And, I got a sponsor, started working steps and,
were you doing fitness? Were you actually doing fitness too at this time with these guys or?
Yeah, I think about after 2 or 3 weeks, I was in pretty rough shape when I got down here too.
Right.
From a health perspective, my lungs had started acting up again and I had an inhaler and, I was 150 pounds, I'm 190 something pounds now, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was, feeble and just pale and couldn't breathe and all that stuff, man. And, so it took me a few weeks to get right. I was still coming off of Suboxone and stuff like that. So I didn't sleep well for a while, for almost 2 months. But the sun and the ocean and the sand and obviously the men that I had met and just going to meetings, all these things, getting into the literature. And I was praying in the morning and praying at night and just doing all the stuff and everything together, before I knew it, started to feel whole again. Yeah. And then, we got into the gym probably, I don't know, 30 days in and probably within my first month or 2.
And that stuck?
Oh, yeah.
So everything that you just mentioned, the praying, the meetings, the gym, that's all stuck for over 6 years.
Pray this morning. I'm going to pray tonight. Yeah.
That's awesome. And am I not mistaken? You're still that pack of dudes, you're still cool with them, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. You want to shout them out?
Oh, yeah. Gabe, Moss, Jared, Jake. Our buddy Nate passed away from this disease.
I'm sorry.
In our circle. It's par for the course, man. We're lucky that a large portion of, those original guys are still here.
That's a blessing, dude.
Yeah.
That's a total blessing. Those are 2 God moments, bro.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. But so how did you carve out in terms of like the whole, you know, trainer, how did that come about? And then can you get into like RTR as well too?
Yeah, of course. So it's kind of funny how everything's all intertwined. You know, my story is just a perfect illustration of God stuff. So at the gym that we, you know, they gave us a gym membership at the sober living that I was at.
Wow,
that's at the zoo.
Okay.
Woolbright,
yeah,
Federal over there,
right?
Boynton. And you're gonna laugh when you hear this. So we were in there for a while, whatever, and we always see this guy, this short, bald-headed guy with a beard.
Yeah.
And you know, we now know him as Octavio.
Yeah.
He was a trainer in there.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't have anything that he has today.
Yeah. No,
he was just a guy that was a trainer and trained out of that gym. And he realized, you know, we came in there enough. And I think there's, you know, quite often there's kind of a look to us like halfway house kids, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
coming into the gym and blah, blah, blah. So him and I eventually got to talking and just kind of connected and, you know, familiarized ourselves with each other. And I didn't see him for a minute, a couple years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I, you know, I ended up leaving sober living. You know, I was working at Trader Joe's. That was my first job in recovery down here, which is great. But I was working at Trader Joe's, still working out, getting, you know, at this point I was in pretty good shape. But these people kept coming through my line. You know, I was like a grocer or whatever.
Right.
And they had these CrossFit Dimension shirts on.
Okay.
So I, you know, I tried CrossFit here and there in the past. I liked it a little bit because I was familiar with Olympic lifting, and obviously with like a sports background, I enjoyed the aspect of competition,
right,
and stuff like that. So I started to get intrigued by it, and then finally, I just asked one of them, like, "Yo, so what's this CrossFit Dimensions about? I see all you guys coming through here, blah blah blah." Like, yeah, you know, this is where it's at. Come through, get a free class. So eventually, I did. I went there and. It's not open anymore, but the owners, Matt and Rebecca Campbell, were just incredible people. Still to this day, they're both amazing. They're a married couple that owned the gym. Let me in with open arms. You know, I connected with them pretty quickly, and within like a few months, probably like 6 months or so, I'd gotten pretty decent. You know what I mean, at CrossFit.
Yeah.
And the owner, Matt, asked me if I'd ever consider being a coach.
Oh, really?
You know, at this point I had like a year sober too, and they really like celebrated that with me and like were really rooting for me, which was cool. And yeah, he's like, would you ever consider being a coach? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love that. You know, I was scared.
Right.
He's like, dude, you'd be great. You're a natural. And they actually offered to pay for my CrossFit level 1 certification.
Nice.
So I ended up doing that and coaching for them. And, you know, that turned into temperance training, which you're familiar with now, which is fantastic. I'm so stoked about that for you.
Yeah, it's so awesome.
Incredible over there, dude.
Yeah.
They all play a big role in my life too.
Yeah. Shout out Anthony Fazio, bro.
Yeah, Fazio and the other original founder, Tim Mushkin.
And Tim, yeah.
They asked me to be their first coach.
Oh, really?
Outside of them, you know, they did everything for the longest. And then, you know, I had been going to their 1 o'clock classes religiously for a while. And, you know, I'd shown some proficiency in movements and blah, blah, blah. And eventually they asked me to coach for them too.
Nice.
So now I was coaching for Temperance and CrossFit Dimensions. And Octavio was actually a member at CrossFit Dimensions at one time.
Okay.
So throughout, you know, I ended up seeing him there. And then he left. And now I know why, as far as he was starting to build his own thing.
Right.
You know, and so I did the CrossFit Dimensions and Temperance thing for a year or so. And then finally Octavio reached out to me like, yo, I'm opening up this gym. Love you to be a part of it. And I came and saw the space and I was like, damn. You know,
it's unbelievable.
You've seen it.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
So I started doing that and I kind of just came on and I was working only with the treatment centers.
Okay.
You know, because he's had that going for a while.
Right.
He's been working with the different treatment centers for a minute. So I just did that. I was just teaching classes for people that were in, you know, the early stages of recovery, in treatment still.
In treatment. Right.
And and I loved it, dude.
Yeah.
I loved it.
What did you love about it? Like what exactly?
Well, I guess I just loved the idea of like possibly being able to help nudge them in the same direction that I went, and like, I know how it makes me feel.
Right.
And I know that you know how it makes you feel. Like,
oh yeah.
the endorphin boost, the change in mindset. You could walk into the gym having the worst day ever, and then by the time you leave an hour later, you're like, everything's gonna be all right.
Yeah.
Or you're just fired up and willing to tackle whatever it is you got going on.
Exactly.
So for me to have the opportunity to help maybe facilitate that for people, I was like, hell yeah, dude. Like, this is what I'm here for.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think that is what I'm here for, which is like one of the crazy things that happens, I guess, in recovery. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's wild. Like, I would have never realized that this is what I wanted to do with my life had I not had to go through all the stuff that I had to go through.
Yeah, but it's an amazing process, bro. Like, you're like freely giving back what was given to you, dude.
Yeah. You know, and then so I'm at FTX. I slowly start to transition out of CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd done a bunch of competitions and this, that, and the third, poured a lot of time into it. And like, the truth of the matter was, like, I like to be the best at anything that I do. And like, dude, these CrossFitters are out insane. You know what I mean? They're unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And it didn't matter how much time or effort I poured into it. Like, I was never going to reach the highest level. You know, I'm just, you know, I'm a little bit older and different things like that. So I started to step away from that and, you know, spending more and more time at FTX. And so at first we were just in the downstairs. And then shortly after that, we got the upstairs, which you know about now.
Yeah.
Which is beautiful.
Yes.
And I was working the front desk on Friday nights. And it was like a 4 to 8 shift.
Okay.
So I'd work from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. You know?
Okay.
We had treatment centers there from 4 to 6. I would usually just get caught up on whatever desk work we had from 6 to 7. Mm-hmm. And then I just had this 7 to 8 hour where I just didn't have anything to do.
Okay.
So I started working out on my own during that time. And then I would like invite somebody to come work out with me.
Right.
And then we started inviting more people.
Wow, and that's how it grew, man.
Just kind of pick up a little bit. Yeah. I mean, at first it was just like the same 3 or 4 guys. It was like my sponsor, a couple of the close homies, and like maybe a rando, you know, random person every now and then.
Yeah.
But at the most, like 4 or 5 people.
Okay.
And I called it Friday Night at the Barbell.
Okay.
Right. And I kind of started marketing it. And then like, you know, like 10 people would show up and like 15 people would show up. And then it would kind of come back to only like 5. Mm-hmm. And like, there was like, I was probably like 5 or 6 weeks into it at this point. It was just me and my boy, Bryce.
Okay.
And I remember having a conversation with him like, yo, like, I really want to get this thing going, but like, no one's showing up. Should I keep doing it? And he's like, yeah, bro, keep doing it. It's a good thing. It'll pick up. Right. Sure enough, it was like, God heard us talking, bro. Like, next week it was 15, but then the next week it was 30. Wow. The next week it was 40. The next week it was 60. Damn. And then one night we had like 90 people in there. The whole entire, you know, turf grid square area, all the way down to where the sign is now.
Oh, wow.
Filled to the brim. And I was like, damn, you know, like, we actually have something going on here. And it was at that point I was sitting at my house that we were renting, you know, me and my boy Jake. And that's where, I don't know, I knew I wanted to do something with it. I wasn't sure if I was going to like try to like what route I was going to take as far as like a nonprofit or like make it like a business thing and do like classes and try to cater to the recovery community, but like in a financial gain type scenario. But nonetheless, I was sitting eating breakfast one morning and the words recovery through repetition.
Oh, that's how it came out.
Yeah. So I like got on GoDaddy, looked it up. Nobody had that shit. It actually just gave me an update today.
Oh, really?
So yeah. I just renewed it. But
and how many years ago was this?
4.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So you got the domain.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, and I say this every time I ever have the opportunity to talk about it because it's important. Like, temperance training is what showed me the power of like fitness and community and connection can have on people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so, you know, this recovery through repetition wasn't something that I didn't like reinvent the wheel. You know what I mean? There's a place called the Phoenix that is even bigger.
Okay.
They're like the main one.
Okay.
They're all over the country now.
Okay.
And they've actually come out and spoke to temperance training. The guy behind that, Scott Strode, came down here before and talked for, on a Sunday morning. Like Fazio and Tim know him pretty well.
Okay.
I think they sought some counsel from him as they were trying to build their brand and do all that kind of stuff. So I just feel like it's important to give a nod to the people who.
No, most definitely, man. Yeah.
Because without temperance training and without FOS and these guys, like there's no recovery through repetition.
Right.
Like, who knows? And so who knows like where my life is either. You know what I mean?
That's like gratitude coming out of you, man.
Yeah, dude. I mean, dude, how else do we get here?
Of course.
Nothing that I've done in my life is a result of anything that I came up with.
Right.
It's more like following the men that came before me and continuing to be grateful for the things that I have, because there was a time where we had nothing.
Yeah.
So I never want to forget that.
Oh, man.
And I think, that's why we pray. That's why we go to meetings. That's why we stay plugged in with other men and do all the things that we do so that we can maintain that gratitude.
Yeah.
When I start taking control, there's a good chance I'm going to run it back into the ground.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've done that, here and there throughout my sobriety. So I just try my best to stay on the beam and keep that attitude of gratitude. I think it's like so important, if not the most important thing.
No, that's really good knowledge, dude.
Yeah.
Like seriously. And like, so what's the mission of recovery through repetition?
Yeah. So, to keep the story rolling, there was the one night where like 80 people were there. I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. You know what I mean? And at that point, I got the recovery through repetition thing, and I came to Oct like, yo, I want to do something with this, and he's been supportive from the jump, which has been great. He allowed me to operate under his roof all these years, for free. We're finally at a place where we're able to kind of give back to FTX and him for all that they've done, which feels good, and they deserve that. But yeah, dude, it was just so powerful. It made me feel great. It gave me another extra layer of accountability, you know what I mean? Right. Something to show up for. And like for me, just like, I don't know, recovering out loud has been important for me, I guess, for some ways, in a lot of ways, I think it can be frowned upon and things like that. But, I'm a believer that we need to let people know what's available to them and do everything we can to try to help.
Yeah. Show people, give people the resources. Yeah. Like, I just want to attest to like, I've been going for, I would say, I guess like 2 months. And it's amazing. It's a whole community of people, of like-minded people. And there's some people that are actually not in recovery that go there as well too. And everybody knows each other. It's like family. You get a great workout in. And so it's yoga on Mondays, right?
Yep. Yoga's Mondays at 7.
And then Friday at 7. And then Saturdays at 11. Yep. Right. And it's just like when you're done, everyone's like exchanging phone numbers. Like there's been so many people that have reached out in terms of like, getting the BAMN t-shirts, giving back to RTR. Like it's like for me, like to be able to have a relationship with you and Jared is so important, because like people that are watching this episode or listening, training and fitness really also go hand in hand with recovery as well too.
Yeah. And in the same breath, and not to cut you off, it's like, and I think you'll agree with this, like, and I say it, before the classes pretty often, I try to say it every time, is that recovery through repetition or any fitness related, organization that we have down here, I think that we all echo the same thing, that all the stuff that we do with the fitness and things is merely a supplement to our recovery. It's not a substitute for working the steps or going to meetings or having a sponsor or hitting your knees. It's not a substitute for any of that stuff. Right. It's merely something that supplements all of that. Right. You know what I mean? Because that is what is going to keep us on the beam and keep us on the path.
Most definitely.
Stuff just makes it that much better.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
So I never want to, pretend or plant the seed of an idea that like, this is the stuff that keeps us sober. This is just something that enriches our lives.
Yeah, most definitely.
You know what I mean? And hopefully keeps us around here for a long time, because obviously we want to stay healthy and obviously, and then, the community piece and the fellowship and expanding upon that, because
you meet so many different people. Yeah. And like down here in South Florida, it's such a cool, tight knit community of everybody knows everybody. Yeah. And everybody's grateful for introductions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's crazy, man. We went out to dinner last night. Like I said, I got my boy down here from my hometown. And we went to we went to, I saw you at the art district thing, and,
Right.
People were coming up to me there and saying what up. And then we went to dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. And before we even walk in, someone swings open the side door and like lets us in, because it was one of the homies from the home group.
Yeah.
Like his family. And then we're walking through, and there's another table of people that I know in there.
Right.
The chef's saying hi to us because I've been there, and so
Yeah.
it's just like you just to, reinforce what you said, like it's a pretty awesome community of people.
It's
both
unbelievable.
inside and outside of
Yeah.
recovery. And they're just really good people that support everything that we got going on.
No, it's mad supportive, man. I think that I definitely think that people, from like my standpoint, bro, to be honest with you, people look at you in terms of like, you give back so much. Like you always answer the phone, you always answer text. Like you're like people like when I'm around you, I was telling Debbie this I think this morning. Like we go to meetings or stuff like that. Like there's so many people that come up to you and thank you and ask you questions and stuff like that. And it's like, that's solid, dude. Like that's just like, you're always like, you never, it's like never know. You're always like, yeah, I could do this, or text me this, I can help you. And you're always introducing me to people, and you're like, hey, you should check this out or this. And you're always helping people. Always.
Well, thank you.
No, you are, man. It's important, dude. Like, like honestly, like the whole mission, like when people talk about like missions and stuff like that, like the whole idea is that when you meet people like yourself, and like you come on here and share like your experience, strength, and hope, like somebody that is struggling with even like addiction or recovery, like there's things that we can tell people that they might not know about, or they can try. And if at least they try something and it helps like that person, then that's a domino effect, and they can help somebody else. And like your whole story is just like what was given to you, it just flows through you, bro. So I really appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
People like you, you're a good example. Like you would do it for me, right?
Of course.
A lot of people in their life would do it for me or have done it for me. So it's just like it just seems like the right thing to do. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what we're taught as men in recovery, or just people in recovery, is to try to give back. And that's like the greatest fulfillment that you'll ever get.
Yeah.
I was a taker forever.
We were.
So it's like to even have the ability or opportunity to give back, it's like a no-brainer.
Of course. Yeah.
And it pays back tenfold. I mean, if you look at my life, dude, it's like, you've seen it firsthand, like some of the shit that I've been able to do as a result of what I've been, the opportunities that have been afforded, like being able to tag along with Jared and walk out with him when he fights Patty and shake Joe Rogan's hand and meet Dana White and all these crazy things. Like none of that's possible without giving back and trying to be of service and saying yes to life and gratitude. Right. So it's like, for me, I've been given way too much proof and evidence that this way of life works. And even obviously it keeps me away from a drink or a drug, but it also allows me to thrive in life. Yeah. Which is just as important as anything else. If you come into recovery and your only goal is to not drink or drug, I think you're selling yourself super short. There's so much more available to us. Right. Yeah, most I think that's what I want to hear, what people to hear more than anything.
Most definitely, bro. I want to, before we wrap it up, why don't you like give out your Instagram, how people can reach you through RTR and stuff like that?
Yeah. So my personal Instagram is at jplum219, Jeremy Plummer on Facebook. And I operate the Recovery Through Repetition Instagram, which is at Recovery Through Repetition. And then we just actually opened up another page specifically for the yoga piece. Okay. So that's at rtr.yoga, I believe, which is awesome. Just to help with, making sure that we're keeping up with all of our stuff. And I just want to say, like, with Recovery Through Repetition and the main thing that we do that I'm so proud of, and that was done for me to kind of bring this whole thing full circle, is once people achieve a year or more of sobriety, that's when we pay for them to become personal trainers or yoga instructors. So
that's awesome.
If you hear this and you're out there and you have a year or more of sobriety and you want to pursue your passion, if it's in fitness or yoga, go to www.wearertr.org, or you can message me privately on Instagram, or message the Recovery Through Repetition Instagram page, and we'd love to talk to you and see if you're a candidate and try to help you, on the path.
Nice.
What was done for me.
Yeah, man. Well, will you come back?
Absolutely.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, I really appreciate it.
So much to be talked about,
Yeah.
What I mean?
And I want to acknowledge something, to be honest with you. I thank you for talking about getting into therapy and trauma. It's very important.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole nother thing we could talk about in the
future,
we should.
But
there's other things as you peel back the onion.
Yes.
Becoming a man and all the things that I neglected, the certain fellowships that we attend, only kind of address certain things. And
right.
Someone like me, I needed to do a deeper dive and try to unpack some other stuff, and it's been helpful.
Yeah.
So I don't have any shame in that. I want to be the best version of myself I can.
Yeah, most definitely.
This is what it is.
All right, bro. So thanks again. And I'm definitely happy, you come back on and we'll get back into it. If you're tuning in, watching the episode on YouTube or listening to any social media platforms, if you're struggling in active addiction, or if you know somebody that's struggling, or you need help in recovery, you can email BAMN realrecoverytalk@gmail.com. I just want to shout out everybody that has been messaging us in terms of things that they've gotten out of the episodes, in terms of the structure or ideas or suggestions. I greatly appreciate that. To be honest with you, this is the mission of the podcast, is to just give back what was freely given to us. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll check you guys next time. Bye.